So for Google OAuth, the first thing is what you need is to sign up Google Cloud Console, right? You need your API keys, right? So that, because we're talking about creating a consent screen that's going to be for your application. So Google is going to authenticate the user. And so basically we need to register your application with Google in order for that to work. And to do that, you just come over to the Google Cloud Console, just sign up. I don't think it's super, I'm pretty sure it's instant to just sign up for it. And after you sign up, you click on APIs and services, and then you click on credentials. And so from here, if you don't see this screen, you might see a prompt that would say, go and register your app. And then after that, you would come back and you should be able to see this screen. You come back to this credentials page, and you should see this option to be able to create credentials. And when you click on that, you just click on OAuth client ID, this one, and then you click on application type, you click on web application, and you just call it whatever you want. And this is the redirect URI. So the redirect URIs are pre-authorized. Like you have told Google, because what Google is going to do with that URL is that they're going to send the user to that place, to that destination after they authenticate them. They need to know where they're going to go. So what you're actually providing them with is, most importantly, URL for a page that can verify them, right? When they arrive at that page, they're going to arrive the URI that you provide. So if you can see I'm typing here, let's say this was your URI, right? So we give them the login slug, right? And so they're send the user back to this slug, but with a code that's like 4% to gonna come with this crazy code. And what we want to do is have the user arrive to a page where this code automatically taken and sent back to Xano to verify that the code is legit. And then with that code, we get the user's information. So all the stuff is taken care of. But to show what that looks like, so what you do here at this stage is you come into, let's say, if I were to do this, I would come over to my Google redirect page, because this is the page that has that logic that's going to pull out that code. It has the logic to decode the URI component and is passing it as a parameter to that Google continue. And so this page is, I'm taking its URL, taking it from the WeWeb editor, and this is what I'm actually providing it. And why am I doing that? Because I'm in testing, right? I want to be able to come back to this page when I'm in testing mode. But what I can also do is I can click on deploy, and I can deploy this if I have a staging domain or a production domain. I can also put the domains as well. I can take this and I can do the same. I don't think I've ever seen a limit on how many. I might just put a few to make my life easier so I don't have to come back in case I want to send them to the login screen or to the dashboard. I just add a few that are useful for the editor and for the domain for different places that want to end up. And so after doing that, we click on create. I'm just not going to do it now because I don't need another one of these. But once you create, it's going to give you your client ID and your client secret. With that client ID and client secret, we're going to go over to Xano, and we're going to go into the settings, and we just add it over to client ID and secret. So we just edit these values and they're in your system. So if we look at where does the flow start, let me put something here. These are just the endpoints. There's only two endpoints, so the Google initialize and Google continue. If we come over to here and look at the login screen, and if I look at the for Google initialize, I can see my URI is just that page. That's it. When Google gets this request, it sees, oh, this is the right URI, because if the URI doesn't match with what you saved over here, return back an error. It's not going to work. So that's why, that's another reason it has to match. So with this matching, it should succeed, and then it returns back URL as part of its response. We redirect the user to that URL. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I click, see, it takes me here.
Okay.
Now, when I click on an account here, that actually here, I'm going to click on this account so you can see what happens. I'm going to come back to WeWeb, and you can see that it failed. It didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work is because I tried to use an account that I already registered in Xano, because there's multiple ways you can, now we have two different ways you can authenticate as a user, right? But you could still only have one email under that user. So if I look at the page here to see what happened, you'll see the response says duplicate record detected, right?
Oh,
So that's why that happens. So that's why I'm just showing why sometimes it can seem like it fails, right? Which it did, but for a good reason. And if I do this again and I click on one that will work, it'll take me to the
oh,
dashboard. And now I'm logged in, right? I actually have a cookie. If I look and see at this endpoint, what was that last request? Back in here, I get a token, right? Just like any other user. And that's how it works. One thing to consider is that, again, when you're trying to use this within testing, so what I
yeah,
do, I have a version of this request where the URI is going to send me to the editor. And then I have another version that's set up that is disabled that's going to send me to the live domain so that later on I can just disable or enable. Because obviously, when this is deployed, we want to send to the live domain. I'm sure there's better ways. This is actually, there's probably another way to do this. Maybe even from the Xano side, a few things, and I have to through this discussion probably want to adjust. But yeah, overall, that's how it works. Like the really actually most key thing here that sometimes gets screwed up is that the code, when it's coming out, it has to be in a specific format. It can't be even one character off, right? And so this is very specific what we're doing here. When we're decoding it, this is really critical. This is where things go. Like if we look at for the browser, sometimes you'll see the code. You can see what it looks like as by WeWeb before doing any formatting to it or anything. And if you were to just pass it the way it appears there, it won't work. This had to be figured. So hopefully that was helpful.